In this town, there's no off-season. The news never stops, and neither do we. It's always game day in Cleveland with Andy Baskin and Daryl Ryder.
It is always game day in Cleveland. He's Daryl Ryder. I am Andy Baskin. We are brought to you by Smiley One in Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. Daryl, I was hoping that we were going to hear from the Rees master himself, the new guru of offense for your Cleveland Browns. But yet, his press conference, much like the weather, delaying things in Northeast Ohio. And now we have to wait another day to hear Sir Tommy speak. Your thoughts?
You'll get to take a half hour off on Thursday instead of Wednesday. So there you go.
There you go. Atypical, jealous, fill-in co-host, whatever. Co-host. Now you're a host in my world. That it just sits there and it's pure jealousy. I hear it from you. I hear it from the show after us. I hear not so much from the show after us. The show before us, shows that have been on our station that are no longer there. Yet somehow, some way, Jeff and I survive, haven't we? We are the truce. We are at the apocalyptic war cockroaches. We have made it through. And yes, we enjoy listening to press conferences. I don't know why people can't get over that.
30 minutes. You don't have to talk.
It has nothing to do with filling 30 minutes. Please, my friend, would you stop? This is about giving fans an unfiltered look behind the scenes so they can rip the you-know-what out of the media for asking all the wrong questions out of you. That's right. So I'll take it as the half-hour Daryl Ryder comedy hour, if that's what you want to be. Daryl, why didn't you ask the question about getting the offense over 20 points a game? Oh, you're not a hard-hitting journalist. Yet we're giving out news and information, and I know this is hard to believe because everybody in our station thinks they're smarter than the people that we bring on the air. But yes, I would like to hear from a head coach when he has to speak about his team. Yes, I would like to hear from the offensive coordinator when he wants to speak about his team. Yes, I would like to hear from the defensive coordinator. So everyone that wants to mouth off and get a little bit snotty with us because we play press conferences on our show can kiss my rear end.
Well, I'm smooching it right now then because I am dead set against us carrying press conferences live. So
why? But I know why, because it takes away from content for you. That's why.
Well, and also too, they're not those. The other problem with the press conferences getting carried live is I feel like we have taken away. We've cried wolf too many times. Usually, when you'd carry a press conference live, it meant it was something of importance was about to happen. And now it's just like, well, we carry everything. And so, we
don't carry everything. We don't. We absolutely don't. We carry the head coach.
They're not designed to be carried live. Like,
we cover the starting quarterback and perhaps Myles Garrett. And that's only if Myles Garrett speaks in our time, the afternoon show. So what's the difference between carrying a press conference live and running an interview in its entirety? What's the difference?
Well, those settings are they're not for show. Like when
you're right. You're right, 100% right. That's why they don't put sponsor. Oh, wait a minute, they do. Sorry, they kind of are for show.
But no, not from the folks that are in the room asking the questions. Like, the toughest part of those press conferences, there's no dialogue. There's no follow-up. There's no ability to have a real conversation because it's 30 people competing to ask a question or try and get in a follow-up question. Like,
yeah, that's been the same since I'm trying to remember first press conference.
It's
since 1986. It's been the same way for me. 1987. Yeah,
it's a lot different today than it was 10 years ago.
I don't ever remember a press conference being a conversation ever. If you wanted to have
talking about press conferences, I'm talking about media availabilities. Like, so now,
the problem is that the teams themselves quit letting you do sidebars afterwards, grabbing guys after the press conference. True.
Yeah, that's true.
Really, that's where the inherent problem was. And then if you really want to do something special, you have to jump through 30 hoops to go through the PR person, or you have to backdoor it and you're going to make the PR person upset, right?
Yeah, I just think that the press conferences now are all about show and not about substance anymore. Like it's the way the business has gone. And this isn't a criticism of anyone.
Mhm.
It's just the reality. I mean, it's the same way in the news business as well. For me, when you're carrying a press conference live, that should be something big is happening. It's important. Stop what you're doing to listen, as opposed to, oh, well, here's Kevin Stefanski to come on and talk about them getting their ass kicked on Sunday. Now on Wednesday, here's Kevin Stefanski talking about how they're going to try not to get their ass kicked this coming Sunday. And then on Friday, hey, here's Kevin again to not answer more questions about how he's going to try and avoid getting their ass kicked again on Sunday. Like it's for me, I just feel like the importance just kind of gets watered down. And again, it's just, that whole thing, where you're trying to be respectful of the other people in the room, but you're trying to get your stuff in. There are a lot of days where I don't get in everything that I want to get in. I know my colleagues feel the same way. Right. It's just a very, different environment than what I mean, I'm old enough to remember. I remember when they were named the Indians then. I remember when the Indians.
I remember before the Guardians,
well,
they
no.
were the Indians.
They used to do 2 separate media sessions. They would do an electronic session, which would last about 3 minutes, and then they would kick us out, and then the writers would come in. And I also remember when it was integrated, which the baseball writers absolutely loved having the electronic media in the same room with them at the same time. And now it's kind of stayed that way ever since. But it certainly has changed. It's going to be interesting to see what like media availability will be like next season. Remember, the NFLPA really had that push last year to get media availability out of the locker rooms out of respect for player privacy and things like that. The Browns do a real good job of setting up a space in the locker room away from the lockers, so we're not encroaching upon teammate space. When the bigger names on the team are talking and things like that. But it's an evolutionary thing. But I just like poking fun at you because I know it annoys you.
I know. I don't. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't. I mean, the philosophical difference, and I'll be honest, and I'll say it right here for the people that are whining about the fact that we carry press conferences, is it goes back to what you were saying in the beginning about, excuse me, how all these things have changed.
Yeah.
And Jeff and I believe, and I know this is hard to believe in the world of talk radio and podcasts and everybody me, that Jeff and I are not the story, that we never want to be the story, and that we want to be the people that help fans understand a little bit more about their team and educate. That's why we do Why Are We Smarter at the end of every show, because Jeff and I aren't out there to yell and scream like so many other folks in our business and that have no idea where a locker room is. Like Jeff and I are probably the only two in the building that have more respect for you than anyone else, because your ass is out there every day. You're the one that's in that lock. And so Jeff and I have a theory that the day one, when I started doing sports talk, was don't say anything you wouldn't say to somebody's face.
Yep.
You know as well as I know that there are a ton of sports talkers that sit behind that microphone, think they're in an ivory tower, and don't actually affect people.
Yeah.
And when you hear stuff like Carly Teller's listening, you know what? I don't really feel like aggravating the tellers today or their kids. That's not why I'm in the business. I'm in the business because I want to educate fans. And I just bring her up because she's put herself out there. That's the reason why. And I respect her. I love the fact that she's interactive with us. And if we say something wrong, I want her to tell me we are wrong, because I like both sides of the story. And a lot of stuff that you get is just complete garbage. It's just garbage. And you're right. It's filler. It's entertainment. It's a show. And it shouldn't be that way. And I do understand that, sometimes those press conferences can get a little bit boring. But, man, when they say something that just jumps off the page, or you actually learn something or get like the philosophical principle behind what the Browns are going to do at number 2 and where they might be leaning, then we've all become a little bit smarter today.
Yeah, well, I mean, we see it the same way. I don't say anything that I wouldn't say to anyone's face when I'm on the air. I do get amused when I will look at my mentions on X and people, especially with the stadium stuff, accuse me of carrying water for the Browns and the Haslam's and everything else. I'm like, do you not see the mushroom clouds I leave on that football operation pretty much on an annual basis when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing for you, the fans? But it is a fine line too. I do admit, I sometimes catch myself from trying to avoid crossing any lines. For me, it's never personal. If I criticize Kevin Stefanski, it's never personal. I've been very critical of Andrew Berry. Truth be told, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Andrew Berry. I think he's a great guy. I think he's super intelligent. But do I think he's done a good enough job as the top football executive of the Browns since taking over? No, because my expectation was that this team was going to be in the playoffs every year with him and Kevin Stefanski, and that's not materialized. And this year was one of the most god-awful seasons for this franchise. And believe me, there's been plenty of them since 1999. And so I've been, really critical of him. I've set my personal feeling aside for Andrew and my professional, I like the guy. I'd like them to be, to be successful, but I got to call it the way I see it. And so, yeah, I mean, I've had, I've had players want to kick my ass at times. I've had players pull me aside and tell me I'm full of, what. And I've also had players pull me aside and say, hey, you're on the money. By the way, let me tell you this. This is, just to give you a little more context of what's going on and things like that. So that is one thing that I do try and pride myself on, is that if you have a problem with me, with anything I write, anything I say, whether it's on this podcast or whether it's on your show. By the way, I'll be on your show on Thursday. So that's another easy 15 minutes for you.
Tomorrow. Oh, good. I'm done. Well, there you go. I might as well just mail it in. I'll mail it in. Hey, hang on a second. Hold that thought for a second. We'll come back. I'm going to give you the naked truth behind something you said a little bit earlier. It's always game day in Cleveland. It's always game day in Cleveland. He's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin. So, and again, we're brought to you by Smiley One and Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. All right, so I said I'd bring up the naked truth here for a second. You brought up a point about the NFLPA wanting to limit access inside a locker room, right? Especially right after it. Daryl, I can tell you that my least favorite thing in, what would I say, 87 was probably the first time I covered anything, and I was just barely in college, that I cannot stand going in the locker room after a game and having to interview people who are not wearing any clothes. It is the weirdest dynamic.
It's the most uncomfortable.
Oh dynamic. Man, I don't want anything to do with it. And you like, in baseball is the worst. Guys come out, they put their towel down, and like some guys don't even care. They don't care if they're naked while they're doing the interview or not. I have no desire. I'm not in that big of a hurry to talk to you. I don't care if you hit the game-winning home run. I don't care if you kicked the game-winning field goal or scored a touchdown at the last second. I just don't care enough to want to stand there. But yet, for some reason, this became the norm in our business to rush in the locker room and have to talk to somebody before they even have their clothes on or have taken a shower. You know what would help
the business a lot? And this is in every sport, because I believe, and I think it's I think Major League Baseball, the NBA and the NFL all have the same 10-minute quote unquote cool down period.
No one was better. I'm going to tell you this really quick because I wasn't reading it before you. The WNBA has the best rule. Like, they are, at least when I first started covering them, and it might have been the ABL too, where this came from before the WNBA really got, they have a steadfast rule. Once that last player walks off the court, it is 10 minutes to the moment. They actually tell their players not to get dressed.
Right.
Wait 10 minutes, and then the locker room's open for like 15, and then it's over.
Right. Well, but the point I was going to get at there, Andy, was especially during football season, like, everyone's rushing to get their game story out as soon as the game is over.
Right.
I got to be honest with you. And I realize that a lot of my colleagues will disagree with me because they like getting into the locker room as quickly as possible. And I get it. Like, so I know that, colleagues that listen to this podcast are going to at some point tell me, how much, full of it and how much of a dumb idea what I'm about to propose is. But I honestly, from my standpoint, I realize I'm speaking from mine, but I think it might help them too. So they don't have to rush at the end of games. But like, what if the 10-minute cool down period became a 20-minute cool down period? This way, guys had time to hop in the shower real quick. The big stars of the game had time to jump in the shower real quick.
Guys who don't want to talk are going to escape, though.
Well, that's part of the.
But you know what? If you don't want to talk, you shouldn't have to talk. I'm sorry. I mean, I understand the league wants. So let's just say the rule changes from like quarterback always has to talk after the game. That's if you score a touchdown or make a big play, you should always have to talk. Okay. And I like maybe the media, like they do, like they pick
Well, Mark
3 stars.
Andrews, the big controversy was Mark Andrews didn't talk after the Ravens loss.
So, like, I think what they should do, and I don't have a problem with what you're saying, is let the media, not the media director, designate 10 players after the game in a football game that must be available after the game. Otherwise, if you want to try to grab somebody else, grab somebody else. But otherwise, those other 42 players should be available to the media within the next session at
There's
the
one problem
media
with
place.
that, though. Like,
it was just an idea.
No, I know, but the problem is that it'll be like it is a lot of times during the week, right? We hear from the same guys on Wednesday, same guys on Thursday, same guys on Friday, right? And you don't want it to be where you're only telling the stories of 10 guys. I understand what you're saying, and
no, I get it. I understand. I'm just trying to figure out a way that it's feasible because I get it. I can't tell you. It's covering the NFL after the game is the hardest thing on earth,
right?
Because you can't be in 10 places at once, and then you're lucky if you can find a Joe Thomas.
By the way, try covering an NBA game these days. Because
that's true.
In one room they're doing the podium, and then in the locker room they're doing the lockers. Also, very good on the old watch if you got the ring thing, where you're trying to close the rings and get your workout in just in one post game thing, just running up and down the hall trying to get everybody. But here's the compromise.
The problem, but the inherent problem with a lot of that over the years was, okay, so if you really wanted to get multiple interviews after the game. Now, all of a sudden, if you're a TV station, you've got to send 2 cameras in there, and that takes up 4 times the space for everybody else.
Here's the compromise. Instead of, and this will take some work, it'll cost some money, but I said this after COVID. They should make instead of having reporters go into the locker room, they should have where when the players come out of the locker room, there's a ready room or interview room or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Every player coming out of the locker room has to filter their way through that room to give reporters an opportunity to speak with them. And then obviously, and they have to be in there for, I don't know, let's say 5 minutes or something, some kind of designated time.
That's not a bad idea.
And then if no one wants to talk to the backup offensive lineman that came in the fourth quarter for a series, he's free to go. If no one wants to talk to the specialist that particular day, then they're all free to leave. This way, that gives the players their privacy, right? To shower, get dressed. It's their space. Because that's always been my thing. And I always tell this to young folks that are coming up in the business when it comes to, access and things like that. The locker room, the ballpark, press box, especially the locker room, though, that's their home. And we, as members of the media, are guests in their home. And therefore, you treat it with respect. You don't sit on their furniture. You don't go play with any of the games.
Wait a minute, you're not allowed to have any of the gum that's in the locker room? You're not allowed to take any of that?
I never have.
Don't.
I never have. So there is a media member that used to help themselves to the locker room buffets. I won't say which team.
Wait, can you tell me what sport? Just tell me what sport.
Nope.
Why? What's the big deal? Just tell me the sport.
No, because I don't want you guessing it on the podcast.
I won't. Okay, I'm going to make you a promise. I just want to know the sport so I can talk about the food.
This occurred during the LeBron 1.0 and LeBron 2.0 eras.
I already know what it is. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, genius, for this one.
Right. Because I'm not trying to out anyone, but I always tell them that the locker room is their domain, and we are guests in their space, and you treat it with the appropriate respect.
It's like somebody invited you in their house. That's all there is to it. I agree with that.
Exactly.
Now, I will say this, Daryl, when I talk about what I do for a living and the luckiest things I've ever been able to do, there is still no better thing for a guy who did, I like doing play-by-play. I enjoy it, but I don't enjoy it as much as I do sidelines. I love doing sidelines. I mean, I've been unbelievably lucky. I did it for the Indians for 6 years. I did it for the Browns preseason, 4 years, off and on between a couple different stations. I did it for the Cavaliers for years, especially LeBron 1.0. And I love doing it for high school because during the high school state championships for football, boys and girls basketball. I still do that for Spectrum, and I love it because I love the immediate reaction right after the game. And I think that there's a difference. You know how I just said I don't like being in the locker room after the game because I don't really feel like talking there. But if I can grab somebody 3 seconds after they've hugged their teammate or their mom or their coach, and then you get that instant stuff. Yeah. I can't stand sideline reporters that sit there. And while I know all the questions I'm going to ask, if you're a sideline reporter and you don't appreciate the moment, you shouldn't be doing your job. And I see it so often where it's ready. Let's just say you kick the game-winning field goal, right, Daryl? And I'll come up to you. And how many times I watch a sideline reporter go, Daryl Ryder, you've got to walk me through, or you've got to tell me what it was like to kick that 35-yard game-winning field goal. Like, it drives me nuts when sometimes reporters they're oblivious to what's really going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you do that post-game, that amazing post-game moment, which hardly anybody gets to do, right? It's one of the hardest jobs to get in sports, is to be a sideline reporter, to do play-by-play, or to be a color analyst, especially for play-by-play and sidelines, because we're normally not people that play the game. We're the reporters or the journalists that came in on the outside. And I understand the journalistic integrity that you still have to have, but if you're blind to the moment, you've missed the whole purpose of your job. And your job is to take that emotion of that athlete and help zing it through the radio or help zing it through the television. That's your job, is to be the person that pulls the rope right through.
I am going to try and walk you through Tommy Rees's emotions of being promoted from the tight ends coach,
correct,
passing game specialist, to now he gets to help Kevin Stefanski draw plays on the whiteboard. So I will do my best to convey that to you and your audience tomorrow. Oh,
I can't wait. All right, more game day in Cleveland coming up. Also, are we going to talk about the Buckeyes? We have to talk about the Buckeyes, right?
And then also, too, we got a couple, it's championship weekend, right? Got to pick who we think is going to be in the Super Bowl. Or actually, you know what, in this case, who do we want to be in the Super Bowl?
Bingo. It's always game day in Cleveland. It is always game day Cleveland. It is the off-season edition as we, I don't know, what's up next? Draft, free agency, all those great things are coming up, and we're just kind of helping you get through it, especially with coaching hires and things that are going on in the NFL playoffs and maybe a little bit more. So I do want to talk about the Buckeyes maybe for the final few moments of the podcast today, because I've really enjoyed this whole entire Ohio State season. So we'll talk about that for a second. But, Daryl, let's walk through these conference championships. Let's start with the AFC first. No, let's start with the AFC second. That's a better game, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say
all right, let's go AFC second.
I would say the AFC is the better of the two championship games.
All right, so let's go. Let's get your professional opinion, and I need to hear it because it's just so important to me, because I'm going to walk around and go, Daryl Ryder said now Washington is going to come and give them everything they can in Philadelphia, and it's not going to be a sunny day in Philadelphia. Is that what you think, Daryl Ryder? Because that's the headline I'm going to give you.
I first of all, I think the Eagles are going to advance.
So it will be sunny in Philadelphia. That's your
prediction. I think it's going to be sunny in Philadelphia. But what a story it would be if Jayden Daniels can take the Commanders from having the number 2 pick in the draft last season to the Super Bowl the following season. And
so we can spend the next 4 months comparing that and trying to find a quarterback in this year's draft.
Yes.
I'm sorry, and I know I'm dipping ahead. I do not want the Browns to take quarterback at 2. I'm on the record right now from what I've seen that's coming out of college. Jeff and I had an argument about this. I don't know what's going to – I don't know how the combine is suddenly going to make a quarterback into something that's superstar, fantastic between now and then, or maybe some interview or some Rorschach test that's going to say, oh, I didn't realize that about what you see. That what they did in college is a good precursor to what they're going to be able to do in the pros. I don't need to see – all the college quarterbacks are done. They're not playing anymore.
Well, and that's the thing people have to understand right now. Like the major scouting component has been done. That happened during the college football season.
Thank you.
All these next, I don't know, how many weeks to the draft is it? 6, 8, whatever it is. Between now and the draft, all it is about is confirming what has been put on the scouting report. That's what the combine's about, aside from the medicals, making sure that the players' health matches what they have. Because that's the original genesis of the combine, was to get medical checkups, a centralized location to get medical checkups on all of the draft prospects. So over the next, 2 months or so, 2.5 months or so, it's all about confirming what's in the scouting reports, following up with people that the scouts spoke with on campus, re-examining maybe some of the tape itself that's already been, charted or scouted or, whatever the terminology, broken down. But if you're changing your, if you're drastically changing your draft boards based on what you see at the combine and based on what you saw at a pro day, you're scouting the wrong way. Like now, what we were talking about earlier about press conferences being turned into, showmanship events, right? That's what the offseason has turned into as far as the bowl games, not the college, but the All-Star bowl game type thing, pre-draft bowl game thing. The combine has been turned into a media event. Pro days are being turned into media events.
They have been for years, though. The pro days have been. I mean, they've been doing those for a while. Right. I got to be honest. The thing I like about the Senior Bowl and the thing I like about what am I missing? There's another bowl game that everybody goes to. The Shrine Bowl. The thing I like about that is I think if you're a scout, you can instantly see what happens when you place a player with players they don't know and suddenly have to work with them like that. I like some of the things that we find out there because it's a challenge. And I think if I'm a scout, I want to watch and I want to hear from the coaches how these guys fit in and how quickly they can fit in and how quickly they learn a new system, because that's reality. The other stuff I know from what they did, or what I might hear from the college coaches. But the fact that you're taking someone and forcing them into a situation they've never been in before with, limited pressure, because it's not about the stands, it's about people watching you.
And they don't get to
I love that.
They go. That's, right. It's determined that they're drafted.
Right.
But yeah, so this is my annual PSA. Like, let's not try and talk ourselves into Shedeur Sanders being worthy of the number 1 overall pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Cam or whoever. Like, it's just, this is all made for television and the media here. This is the part of the offseason. Well, there's no football, there's no draft, so let's do something to entertain the folks. And so, we get the combine and we get these pro days and stuff like that. So if a 40 time impresses you to a point where some guy's going to shoot up your draft board, you've really done the scouting wrong. But championship weekend.
Hang on. I have 2 quick things I want to bring up here before we get into this. One, I don't think we talked about this. When it comes to first of all, I don't know if I've ever said this before, and I know it'll come up down the road. I can't stand the draft. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't like anything about it. I don't like the show. I'm not a big fan of the draft itself. I understand, like, when you have the number 1 pick, it's kind of fun, but I think, I mean, I'd love to see what. I'm not saying that it has to become reality or anything like that. I would love to see what would happen if these college players all came out and they were all free agents, and they made the teams work 10 times harder.
Well, it'd be a disaster. It really would, right? Because let's be honest,
because you're forcing these guys to go to a city to take a job.
Well, but here's I get it, and I understand where you're coming from, but I'm just talking about the competitive aspect of it. Like, who wants to come to the 3-14 Cleveland Browns right now?
Well, there's another reason. Doesn't that inspire your team to not be 3-14 and stop tanking? Because this was the other point I was going to bring up, and I don't know if you saw this, but for the first time ever, there's a league out there that's kind of changed the way they're doing the draft. Did you see this? Have you seen any of this stuff? So there's a women's professional hockey league that's out there right now, and I'm not bringing it up because of hockey or anything like that, because I love hockey. It's more about the concept of what they're doing with the draft. Once you are eliminated, you start at 0 points, okay? And when you win, you get points. And whoever has the most points after elimination gets the first pick in the draft. So now you can't really.
You're driving competition on the.
I think it's a fascinating. Yeah, I think it's a fascinating way to visualize a draft. I don't think the NFL overdo it. I think this women's hockey league is in a position to do it because they don't have that many teams right now.
I say instead of the Pro Bowl, have the 2 worst teams play for the first pick in the draft.
I like it.
There's your extra game. This way too, you don't have to monkey around with the whole, well, we got to have Pro Bowl alternates, because guys are either in the playoffs or they're injured or they just, they choose not to want to participate in the event. Like I honestly, Andy, I would not have a problem if they wanted to play, I don't know, the loser bowl, the toilet bowl, the whatever you want to call it.
What if they took 4 teams on the back end and played the semifinals and a finals? I don't know how you would do it though. Yeah. You'd have to find the weekends, or they would play in the middle of the week. They've earned that honor to play in the middle of the week. Play them on Thursday night,
or have them. Yeah, that's a great idea. Have them played like Thursday night football.
So you would have 2 games on a Thursday night, and then the Sunday before the Super Bowl, the off week, they would play in the off week.
Yeah. I don't hate
it's a thought. Here's the problem. Do players want to play? And then there'd have to be bonus money.
Not want to play now.
No, you'd have to have some kind of extreme bonus money for those guys to be there. Then the other thing is if you're like a mediocre quarterback and you know that there's 4 great quarterbacks coming out in the draft, I want to help this team get their next quarterback. I don't know about that either. That's the other problem I have with it.
Yeah, he might.
All right, pick your winners. Here we go. NFC first. Washington, Philadelphia. You said Philadelphia.
Daniels is trying to become the first rookie starting quarterback to win 3 postseason games and also start a Super Bowl. But I think this is where the Commanders turn into the pumpkin. The fairy tale ends. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win this game. I'm just hoping it's going to be competitive and entertaining because I worry that this is a game. I just think Philadelphia is so good. I see a scenario where that could be a blowout.
Okay, I love the Daniel story. I love it to end this week because I don't want this unrealistic feeling.
You don't want Browns fans calling.
We're going
to be the Washington Commanders. Oh, I was getting that stuff on X this week too. Look at what the Commanders did. I'm like, the Commanders made changes that the Browns quite frankly.
Jeff does this all the time. Look what happened this weekend. Not look what you've done for me lately. Look what's happened in the last 24 hours and then trying to make that the norm. And the expectations. All right, let's talk about the game, which a lot of people probably think could. It depends what the Eagles do, but I think is the better game. Let's talk Buffalo, Kansas City.
Fantastic game. I am rooting very hard for the Buffalo Bills to beat the Chiefs. I do feel like that there's some Chiefs fatigue. There's some Mahomes fatigue.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Listen to the radio. Pick up any sports talk station in the country. There's tons.
They're just sick,
except for Kansas City.
Right. They're just everyone seems to be sick of the Chiefs, which I don't know. I mean, I was talking with the afternoon show about this earlier. Like, I don't know, or I don't remember, because like the Patriots made 8 straight conference championship games. And I don't remember this level of vocal vitriol being spewed outside the Deflategate stuff.
How big was social media in the beginning when New England started making that run?
Think that's the difference, right? Yeah. So I'm rooting for the Bills to beat the Chiefs because I would like to see Josh Allen get over that hump. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are the team that seems to be always standing in his way. The Baltimore Ravens, right? Well, They got through the Ravens last weekend. So can he go to Kansas City and exercise that demon? Remember, they were 40 seconds from the Super Bowl, and the Chiefs and Mahomes came back and forced overtime, and they didn't see the football again. And Kansas City ended up going. So this is an opportunity for Josh Allen and the Bills to exercise that demon that is Kansas City, the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, and all that. I just don't know that it's going to happen. The one saving grace for them, in my view, and I don't know how you feel about this, Kansas City's not been dominant. They weren't dominant last year. They won a Super Bowl when everyone said.
So guess what? Here's what's going to happen.
This year they've played a ton of close games. They seem to be a charmed team. You know what I mean? So I think the Chiefs are going to win. I think it's going to be a Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl. But I'm hoping, honestly, that it's a Bills-Commanders Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Actually, I'm just kind of hoping for Bills-Eagles because I want to see a good Super Bowl. And it could be Kansas City Eagles too. I'm not going to. I like both these teams in the AFC. I have been on the Bills bandwagon for most of the year, especially after they already played Kansas City. So I was just like, yeah, you know what? I kind of think the Bills. I wasn't a big Josh Allen fan in the beginning. It's hard not to be right now, I think. And I kind of want it for the fans. Like, if you ask me the priorities here, like, I want the fans of Buffalo to get to the Super Bowl. I really do.
I don't want them to get to the Super Bowl. I want them to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. I don't know, but you know me. I mean, I have really like Andy Reid. I've always liked Andy Reid, and you know how I feel about Travis. So I mean, I'm always rooting for Travis
You're
Kelce.
torn.
So I'm what?
You're torn.
Yeah, I'm not going to be mad either way.
Say, right? Is that what they say?
I'm torn. All right, we are done. He's Daryl. I'm back. I'm Andy Baskin, and you'll be back with us.
What?
I don't know where I am. Yeah, it's been that kind of a day. I mean, when this day started, it was minus 13.
Well, I think it's plus 13 right now.
So we're up 26 degrees.
I'm looking forward to my house getting above 60 degrees very soon.
Congratulations on all your successes, they would say on one of the other shows that might be mad at me for what I said in the first segment. Daryl, it's been a blast. Evan O'Brien, you're amazing. Great job. We all bow to you because you make us look spectacular. And I'm sure I know what you're pulling to put on the tees. I'm sure. I know exactly what it is. Hey, thanks for listening. We appreciate you. Thanks for watching on YouTube as well. Tell your friends about us on YouTube too. It's always game day in Cleveland.